Mm-hmm.
Yo, what's going on out there? What's going on? Come on in, man. Let's have a conversation, man. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, man. Y'all seen the topic before y'all came in. I see the chat already at it, man. They stay at it. And ain't nothing wrong with that, man. They always ready for a good conversation, man. Shout
Oh
out to
yeah.
Robert Blackman. Shout out to Nando. Shout out to Hawks Shots for Life. Uh our big bro John checking in. Kelvin O'Connor. He said real short leash. And that's what we're gonna talk about, man. How long is the leash? Did they make a mistake at the quarterback position? Shout out to our boy Aaron Freeman on Locked On Falcons. This is how we got this conversation up because he put out an excellent video as to what happened in Atlanta and the mistakes they possibly made. But before we get going, man, tell the folks what's up.
What's going on, everybody? My bad. Old Hawks Digest getting at me about some stuff. But yes, this is the Falcon Show, and we're talking about Raheem Morris. We're going to be talking about the quarterback situation. And yes, just like Smitty said, man, shout out to Aaron Freeman on Locked On Falcons. Had an interesting topic yesterday, going back and revisiting Kirk Cousins being benched for Michael Penix, and we've been talking about that, off and on here and there on shows just about it. So definitely wanted to chime in on it, and again, salute to him and the Locked On Falcons over there, man. Merry Christmas, everybody, and what's happening to everybody. But yeah, we have some things to talk about, y'all. Interesting. We're gonna get into it, really, man, right now, man. And we see, like, really, we was going to start it one way, but we see how the chat is going, so we might as well just go follow the chat, man, and start with the Raheem Morris news.
Yeah, might as well, man. James Palmer TV on Bleacher Report put it up, man. And
Mm.
I'm telling y'all, and we've been warning y'all that this could happen because let's keep it real. We know Arthur Blank is patient. And from what we've been hearing Raheem say the last couple of press conferences, he's a little bit too comfortable with announcing certain things. And one thing we heard him talk about was week one with the quarterback position. And when you comfortable making those positions, those comments about the position, it lets me know that your job might just be safe. But Bleacher Report NFL insider James Palmer said on Bleacher TV on Mount Raheem Morris, that's a spot I'm hearing around the league that more and more people believe could be more likely a change than one stand pat. I think they're analyzing everything in that building from Terry Fontenot on down. But we talked about this just a little bit the other day, and we came up with the perspective that no matter what happens at the end of the season, is something really gonna change,
Right.
and that is the perspective I'm gonna keep taking until I see him on the sideline week one or in training camp next year when I visit. Um, that's the only way I'm gonna believe that he's gonna come back. Because if you look at the situation that we've been in with wins and losses, and me and Chris talked about this the other night. When you look at losing games to teams that either 2-7 or 1-6, some having 5-game losing streaks, 6-game losing streaks, and just like the Arizona game last Sunday, they were 3-11. We were down 10-0, and they struggled on defense. They've been struggling. Well, they were one of the better passing teams in the league, but they're still 3-11 at the end of the day with a backup quarterback start. And they've lost a lot of their key players. They're the most injured team in the NFL. So no way you should have been down 10-0 to begin with. You should have came out, hit him in the mouth right off. And I'm starting to question whether Raheem Morris is that coach that can, go ahead and put his foot on the team's throat and keep it there. Because we've talked about closing games, and that's something that we've struggled with all year. So, right quick, what's your take on Raheem Morris and what it's going to take for you to know that he's not here no more if he even comes back? Cause I mean I'm at the point where I just feel like it's just time for him to go, and that's just
I
my
mean,
perspective.
well, I mean, of course, we got like similar perspectives. We feel like going all the way back to the initial hiring. You know, this was neither one of our hires. We've already stated that. And main reason why, because you had the opportunity of just having him as your head coach before, but there was a reason why you did not do that. And I believe because you felt like at that particular time you wanted to pivot and go in a different direction. He wasn't a leading candidate to do that. He didn't do enough. He didn't win enough. That's why I feel like, he didn't get the job back then. But, you know, we let a couple of moons and a couple of suns circle around, and then next thing you know, we bring him back in. And yes, he does have a Super Bowl ring, but that's as a coordinator. And it's just moving to present day where we're coming to what James Palmer is saying. For the last 6 weeks, we've been prepping y'all for the possibility of Raheem Morris returning to Atlanta. We've given you all the different scenarios on how it could happen. Some of the things that he could say to Arthur Blank. We've told you that. So this shouldn't come at any surprise to anyone. And you look at it, if you do get rid of Raheem, as something that we've said before, who is going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to work with Michael Penix, or hey, I'm going to keep Bajan, or, say, hey, let's pay Drake, let's keep Kyle. Like, it's going to be so many different decisions that have to be made. But with that being said, that's why we come back to Raheem Morris possibly being confirmed. You can possibly still keep Raheem, move on from Zach, especially the special coordinators Williams, and you can go back and run it back out with different personnel, different coaches, and say, hey, let's get after it, especially if you win these last two games. These last two games are so important. And I said it on the post game. And for those who might have missed it, I'll say it again here, that this Rams game, if we're able to win that Rams game, that will be the biggest feather in Raheem Morris's cap since the Buffalo Bills game. But those are two things that he can build off of. And if you get the Saints too at the end of the year, a four-game winning streak to end the season, it sounds real Dan Quinn-ish. But that's another reason why it could win
be
Arthur
fool's
Blank's
gold.
over.
But it could be fool's gold because
And I think it is.
Very next season, what does he do? Start 0-5.
0-5.
Mr. International, thank you for the donation, my brother. He said, I'm okay with Raheem Morris coming back and coaching. The problem is coaches need to coach better. There needs to be a better game strategy. And I absolutely agree with that 100% because
players got to execute too.
Yeah, and players got to
execute too, though.
But let's look at it in this aspect is, you saying that will he pick the right coaches to come in and coach and give us a better game plan, better strategy? And will he bring in somebody? He brought in Jeff Ulbrich, and I know Ulbrich challenges him just a little bit, something Jimmy Lake couldn't do, and we know that. But how about him possibly bringing back Kirk Cousins? And we're going to get into this. And like we said, this is the guy that gave us the idea for this show. And he's going to come in and talk with us right quick about this situation. Aaron, what's up, man? What's going on, guys?
My guy, Aaron Freeman, man, from the illustrious Locked On Falcons, man. How you feeling?
I've been better, as you can tell from my voice. I'm coming down with some holiday sickness at this point in time, but always feel a little bit better talking ball with you guys.
Hey, no doubt. You're working a lot, man. That's just all it is. You're just working a lot.
Hard work.
But we're finna get into this, and we're gonna switch into it right quick. While we got him on, man, I know he's busy, so we're gonna knock this out right quick. We'll get back to your questions in a second. But we're going to talk about Raheem Morris and his future in Atlanta. We actually started talking about it. And one thing that you talked about on the Lock On Falcons podcast yesterday about the revisiting the quarterback position. And this is going to be a question going forward, probably the next 2 to 3 years, to be honest. Because as you said, and as we've been saying, you talk about Mike Penix, and I honestly think next year is a wash. He comes back, 4th year, contract year, 5th year option, that comes up. Then you have what's going to happen with Kurt after this season. You talk about $57 million cap hit if he stays, $35 million if you move on. I threw out quarterback names, and honestly, I just don't know which way to go with this quarterback thing. But when you revisit it, what you said makes absolute sense as far as did they make a mistake pulling him too fast? But at the same time, when you have a number 8 pick, you want to see what the future looks like, especially since he went down with a shoulder injury. Quarterback competition, I get that part. But can you backtrack and go backwards after you make that change? That is the toughest question that we have to answer. Right quick.
Mhm.
Give you a summarization on that.
Yeah, I think you break it down pretty well there, Smitty. It's a tough situation that the Falcons have been in. Like they, as I said on the podcast, like they were justified in pulling the plug on Kirk Cousins given his struggles late last season. And as you said, because you have Michael Penix and you use this top 10 pick on him and you believe that he's the future of the franchise, you know, making that switch at that time, you know, it was justified. Is the problem has been it just hasn't produced the results that the team basically was promising it would, right? And we saw the flashes in those final 3 games and we're like, oh, this is going to be even better than Kirk Cousins because of the arm talent, because of his ability to generate those explosive plays down the field.
Right.
And it just didn't manifest this season on the football field. And it's part of the reason why the Falcons were below average offense for the first part of the season when Michael Penix was there. And it's hard to say like, oh, that's a Michael Penix problem, right? Because he's a first year starting quarterback and those guys typically struggle. And it's really kind of part of the conversation when you talk about Raheem Morris and this coaching staff who basically, you know, whether they said it outright or not, it was heavily implied that like, well, we'll get Michael Penix right and we'll get this offense going and this offense, right? You know, you heard Jeff Olbrich say, like, we expect this offense to play with leads and we built our defense to play with leads and they weren't playing with leads and whatnot. And so now that's going to be the question where, you know, whether it's for this current coaching staff, if they are brought back next year or the next coaching staff, right? Like if the goal is to win right now, Kirk Cousins, the body of work suggests that your better option is Kirk Cousins. If that's what you're trying to do, obviously, if you can develop Michael Penix, that's going to be your best long-term option for the football team. And so, you know, whoever is making the decisions, you know, in the coming months about the future of the quarterback position, you know, that's a hard decision to make. Are you, you know, and again, part of that's going to be what does Arthur Blank want, right? You know, if ownership sits there and tells you got to win right now, it's like it's going to be hard to pivot back to Michael Penix at this point, coming off his injury. You know, he's not going to have much of an offseason because of that injury. And like you can't sit there and be as committed to him as Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris were, you know, prior to that. And then if you're Terry Fontenot or Raheem Morris, if you're still in the building, you know, you can't really abandon Michael Penix because you basically told ownership, this is our guy. This is the guy that's going to be the future quarterback. But we got to turn the page back to Kirk Cousins. So it's a very complicated situation. And obviously, if the Falcons had just been winning games, you know, they would have been able to uncomplicate this situation. But obviously, you know, we're sitting here and they didn't win enough games to make this an easy sort of situation to navigate.
Right. Absolutely. Feels like a catch-22 either way, right? Just darn if you do, darn if you don't. And honestly, you know, you go back to that whole situation when Kirk Cousins got hurt. And, you know, we seen that he didn't look right on, you know, as a quarterback, you know, because we were 6-3. We seen like prime time games where he elevate his game and, you know, be able to catapult the Falcons to wins. And then all of a sudden it just, you know, dies out. And we find out, of course, you know, moving forward, he was injured, but the Falcons, they waited until after the Raiders game to make the change. By then, we had already, of course, you know, been out of the top spot, losing it, and then start going back and forth with Tampa, and then ultimately losing it down the end. And I just want to go back to it and just say, like, for me personally, I do think that, you know, it was the right move to move on to Penix because, I mean, obviously, you know, Kurt was hurt, but the reports didn't come out into the offseason. But you could see visibly that he wasn't right. So he wasn't getting any zip on the ball. Some of the balls were just dying and is dying right into the turf, etc. So, like, I do think that the Falcons should have moved on to Michael Penix, but you made a point about how there was no quarterback competition, moving into this coming season. Now, I think that was a good point, but I also believe that the whole reason behind it was because, that was going to shake the confidence of Michael Penix, don't you think? And just, moving forward, you move away from Kurt. He's your future anyway. You might as well see what he has to offer.
Yeah. I mean, quarterback competitions are tough because you're taking reps away from a guy. You're basically splitting reps with the ones, right? And so especially for a player like Penix, who didn't get reps with the ones at all his rookie season until he got on the football field, like, he needs those reps. If you want to give him the best chance to, put his foot forward, and especially, given that Raheem Morris ain't playing guys in the preseason, like, he needs all the reps he can get from April through August with the ones to maximize his chances of having success come September. And so, like, I understand, like, I don't fault the Falcons for not having an open competition for that starting job at that point in time, just because, like, if you're trying to help out Michael Penix and put him in a favorable situation, which I think we all can agree should have been the goal because of the perception that he is the long-term answer here in Atlanta, or you're hoping he's going to be the long-term answer here in Atlanta. You want to put that guy in the best position to succeed. You already made the decision to move off Kirk Cousins. And so trying to be like, well, Kirk's going to come in and compete for the job or whatever. It's like, if, like, yeah, it's basically because you had 100 million reasons to not bench Kirk, right? And so, like, once you made that move, once you made that decision, as you said, for justifiable reasons because of Kirk's play down the stretch due to the injuries, like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? You can't, once you spill that milk, it's already spilled or whatever. And so, like, not having that competition, I think, makes sense. But at the same time, like, now, because we can look back in hindsight and say Penix did not have the type of success early in the season that we wanted him to have, you can sit there and go, like, well, maybe you could have had a competition, and maybe if Kirk had won that competition, you would be better off today or whatever. But, like, all of that is, ultimately, again, the bottom line is it boils down to they promised that Michael Penix would be good. Michael Penix was okay. And unfortunately, okay is not good enough for this team. And then you have just the domino effect of now you're calling into question every decision that has been made about the quarterback position because you weren't getting the results on the field.
And speaking of decisions, here's another big decision that I think they have to have going forward. I talked about the $57 million if he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
What if Raheem goes out and make another change at coordinator like he did with Jeff Ulbrich? And you bring in the offensive coordinator, West Coast style offense. And I threw out a name the other night, and I've been throwing out a couple of the shows, the past couple of shows. And nobody really thinks about, we talk about the Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson and those guys. But what about a Jimmy Garoppolo, who he coached in LA with the Rams? That's a West Coast style quarterback. What if he goes with another veteran such as a Garoppolo, who's been around for a while, knows the system, and can come in under a new coordinator? And if he decides to keep Zach, another veteran quarterback that you don't have to transform, basically, you don't have to, scream at in the film room, worry about what's going to happen. Somebody that can guide you to keep you growing at an elite level. And that's what I feel like Kurt has done with Zach Robinson. He's the eyes and ears on the field. He knows how to audible, hot routes, call all of that. What do you think they do if they decide to go ahead and save the $35 million and bring in a bridge guy for a year until Penix possibly comes back before that fifth-year option is due?
I think that's probably the most likely outcome, just because you got to find that cap space somewhere. And the easiest thing to do is just to cut Kirk Cousins and, be like, peace out, Kirk. We appreciate what you did for the organization. We appreciate you being held hostage for the last year because we know you didn't want to be here in Atlanta this past year. And so we appreciate you stepping on the field and doing all the things you did. And now you have your freedom to sign with somebody else. And then you go in and you get a cheaper veteran like a Jimmy Garoppolo. The one issue with Jimmy Garoppolo is he's not the most durable quarterback. And so you already have a quarterback coming off an injury, and the quarterback that I'm trying to think, when was the last time Jimmy Garoppolo started a full season? It was like 2021 maybe or something like that,
He was in college
2021, one or the other.
I think it was like Trey Lance's rookie year. I think it was the last time he was healthy.
That what it was.
And so like you're gonna have to deal with that. And so like, if you sign specifically Jimmy Garoppolo, like, do you have to sign another backup quarterback just in the event that Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt before Penix is ready to come back and step on the field or whatever? So I think though there's going to be a lot of options available for the Falcons. I don't know if any one of them is a slam dunk, this is definitely going to work out option when it comes to those bridge quarterbacks that are going to potentially be available this offseason. But I do think, like, whether it's a Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's a Geno Smith, if he gets cut by the Raiders, I know there's going to be a lot of hype, specifically given his performance the other night. Malik Willis is going to be one of those reclamation projects that people are going to.
But doesn't Malik Willis kind of feel like Michael Penix just with more advanced coaching, just because he's been up there in Green Bay? I mean, he's been in the league a little longer, and he's backing up Jordan Love, and I mean, he's looking good in that system. But if you bring in Malik Willis, regardless, you have to have him learn our system, and that would be my biggest question. Can he be able to pick that up? Especially if you're keeping Raheem, and just let's say, hypothetically speaking, you keep Zach. It's like, will he be able to come in and learn that from who's given the toolage? But how do you feel about Mac Jones? I know that's a guy that I've been saying that possibly could like earn himself, a bridge opportunity, possibly could come in if he does well, earn himself yet another quarterback, because we know he's not necessarily going to long term be the guy, especially if you're still believing in Penix. But we're talking about bridge guys. I mean, you possibly could bring in Mac Jones. How you feel about that one?
I like Mac Jones. I've always been a fan of Mac Jones. I always felt like he got a raw deal in New England. I think he's he's very much like Kirk Cousins in terms of what he brings to the table as a starting quarterback. From what I've heard and read about that situation, is because the 49ers have struggled to have their starting quarterback stay healthy pretty much every year that Kyle Shanahan has been there, that they want to keep Mac Jones as their backup. And they're only are going to be willing to give him up if someone is going to be willing to give up like draft capital that is worth a starting quarterback, which I guess from the rumors I've heard is like a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, right? I would say no less than a 3rd.
Yeah, and so
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's where, like, because if you trade that for Mac Jones, you're basically, even though it's only a 3rd round pick, you're giving up enough that I think you're basically saying this is our starter. All things being equal, this is not a bridge guy. If you're giving up a 3rd round pick for him, and then you would have to pay him like a starter to justify that. And it just, like, again, I like Mac Jones, but he's more of like, I'll let him get to free agency in 2027 before I really entertain that as a possibility for the Falcons, more so than if I have to trade premium. But now, if we come to find out you only got to give up like a 6th or a 7th round pick for Mac Jones, that's a different conversation. But if it's like a 3rd or something like that, then it's a little too rich for my blood.
And that's going to be Baker Mayfield type money, around $33 million, somewhere in that range, correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't do that. But again, that is the dilemma that the Falcons are in a quarterback situation. And it's really like, man, you almost feel snake bitten, because the plan was never to even be in the situation that we're in. We plan on at least giving Kirk at least 2 seasons. I feel like Kirk Cousins is that player coach, because he's also given some toolage to Zach, because he's been a 14-year vet now, has been in these different offenses, knows pretty much the typical verbiage, of the offense. So he can kind of like, coach along Zach as you go with it. Then when you finally do move on from Kirk, which would possibly be next season, it's like, okay, Michael, I'm more experienced now. Maybe I can start grooming you now. But now everything has imploded, and now we're in the situation that we're in, to where we have our quarterback. We don't necessarily know the window of when he'll necessarily be back. And of course, the Falcons, as they have been kind of mysterious, about just keeping about information and everything. So you think about, you don't know exactly when Penix is going to come back. That 57 million dead cap, I just believe you just cannot do that at all. You got to save what you can save, which is about 22 mil, 23 mil or so. So you got to go ahead and get that salary cap back in, and you got to figure out what you're going to do at quarterback from there. Because, guys, I just got to keep it real with y'all. I don't feel like Easton Stick is the guy or anything like that. I'm just being real. I'm just being real with what we have left. When you look around in the quarterback room, you're like, nah, that's not it. So just being real.
Hey, Easton Stick, he'll give you one good preseason game a year. That's about all he's good for at this point in time. That
gotta have more, Aaron. I gotta have more.
But you know what Easton gonna do when he pull up with that stick.
Oh yeah.
Last question. Case for it against Raheem Morris as to why he should be the Atlanta coach in 2026.
I can't really
put you on the spot.
I can't really think of a good reason why he should be back in 2026. There's nothing to me that Raheem is like. I like Raheem. This is not, I like the bravado and all the talking that he does. You just got to back it up on the field. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to back it up on the field really at all. And I'm just like, I just struggle to see a compelling reason to justify bringing him back other than just like you just basically saying, well, we know we're not going to be good in 2026. And why would we burden somebody else with that situation? Another coach knowing that, this team is going to struggle next year. And it's like, well, to me, like, that's the perfect opportunity for you to bring in a new coach so that if it's going to be a struggle, get all the learning a new system and personnel changes and all that stuff out of the way in a year that we all know is not going to necessarily work, so that you can have that person in a situation in 27 when you hopefully have cleared your books of all Kirk Cousins' money, when you hopefully have reloaded with first round picks and other draft picks because of maybe you get some comp picks from some of the free agents that you may lose this offseason. You give that coach a really good opportunity to make a big, bold move forward for this team in year 2, as opposed to, the alternative where you bring back Raheem, you bring back Terry Fontenot, and they just dig you even deeper in the hole by trading away more picks and spending more money that they don't necessarily have. That's going to just set that coach up for the same situation in 2027. So to me, you're just kicking the can down the road. So for me, it's just like there's really no compelling reason other than just like you like Raheem and the team is going to be bad. But like, to me, that's just more reason for me that you just move off of him if you already know that the team is going to be bad. Give that new regime an opportunity to build it their way rather than letting Raheem build it his way and it's going to be bad. I'd much rather see somebody else's version of the bad Falcons than Raheem's version of the bad Falcons. I'm done with the bad version of the Raheem Falcons.
And doesn't it feel like it's
part of? Is Terry Fontenot going to be part of that changing of the guard as well?
Yeah, to me, my thing with Terry is I think Terry's approach, particularly these last 2 off seasons of like the Falcons being one piece away, I think has really hamstrung this team. And like they took the big swing at the quarterback, they took the big swing at the edge rusher. You could say, okay, he hit on the edge rushers, but it's like what we've discovered is like there's more issues on this team. And Terry's approach to me is just not an approach where like you had an opportunity this offseason when you had 5 picks and Terry was like, I'm going to trade up. And again, we can sit here and debate whether he was justified with that and the success and the results so far seem to say that he was justified in that, but you're going to have 5 picks again next year. And so is Terry going to feel compelled to like, well, it worked last year. Let's do it again. Let's trade up again. And let's give away a future first for another pick this year. And it's like, it worked last year with James Pierce, but the other 4 times where he's traded up in round 2, it hasn't really worked out, in a positive way with Ebiketie and Bergeron and Rukaroro. Again, not to say any of those guys are bums, but like, you're not sitting there going like, oh man, these are superstars in the making. So like you're 1 for 4 on trade ups at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? and you're 1-for-1 on trade backs because you traded back in his first draft, and the pick you traded back to get Richie Grant. That didn't work out, but the player you picked up was Drew Dalman. And Drew Dalman just got voted to the Pro Bowl. Unfortunately for the Bears, not for the Falcons. But like that's your most successful day 3 pick that Terry Fontenot's had, other than maybe Tyler Algier. And so, like, to me, Terry's approach, it's not that Terry's a bad GM. It's just his approach is one that I just don't think is needed for the Falcons. That aggressive approach of we just need to trade up and get a guy. And we have this conviction on a guy. It's like, no, you need to trade back. And like, that's just not Terry Fontenot's MO. And so to me, I'm just like, that's what I think the Falcons need. They need to accumulate assets and trade back over these next couple of years so that they can try to fill as many of these holes as possible. And that's just not going to be Terry Fontenot, especially in a make or break sort of year where he knows he's on the hot seat. So I just say, bring somebody else in that's going to have more of that mentality when it comes to team building of let's accumulate assets as opposed to giving them away.
Man, it's been so crazy because I've been telling this team to trade back for the last 2 seasons, but
yeah.
But either way it go, that's neither here or there. I'm just, as far as what Terry Fontenot, I do believe in the beginning he was a guy, of course he's been around the salary cap. We know that's kind of what he was famous for with that Saints organization, learning in that tutelage. But coming in, I feel like, first time GM, his first couple seasons, for me personally, I kind of gave him grace. He had some bad picks, some guys that are not even in the league anymore, not on our team, etc. But, in the last few seasons, well, I'll say couple of seasons, being in the Brandon Dorlus, getting guys like Brandon Dorlus, and in this season, of course, James Pierce and Jalen Walker, I do feel like the last 2 drafts Terry's pretty much hit on for the most part. Now, that could be, coming to the fact that he does have more experience now. So if you do keep Terry Fontenot, do you trust the process that now he's a more experienced GM that possibly, yes, he did do the first rounder, I understand, but do you really trust him to make the right decisions moving forward with that 1 year left? The fact that he doesn't have an extension right now, do you really just trust him to make the decisions moving forward?
I personally don't, just because last year you're in this exact same predicament where you have a limited number of picks, a number of holes to plug, and Terry basically showed you who he was, which is I'm trading it all. And again, you can say he was right in that decision because James Pierce and Xavier Watson, all those guys have had so much success. But to me, betting it on that sort of to me, that's a narrow bullseye that you got to hit. And the odds of you hitting that 2 years in a row, like if Terry, so when you ask me, do I trust him? No, I think Terry's going to do what Terry does, which is he's going to trade up and he's going to be aggressive and whatnot, and go up to get a wide receiver, go up to get a cornerback, whatever he's going to wind up doing. And I don't trust him to not do that in this circumstance where I think the opposite needs to be the case, where the Falcons need to trade back and accumulate future assets, because this is not going to be one off season. They're not one off season away. And I think Terry's approach is always, we're one off season away. And I just don't trust him to make that decision.
Right.
Agreed,
And to piggyback off of that too, remember Terry Fontenot has also gotten himself in the situation just by off of things he said, saying that we were not going to be back in this situation. And he was technically kind of true because we was in the 15th slot. But come on now, at the end of the day, we've had 4 drafts to where we're picking in the top 10, another to where you're picking and still in the top 15, which is still just as bad. And now you're going into another draft to where the Rams, it may not be a top 10 pick, but they're definitely going to have somewhere around the top 15 pick. Now, we're happy for James Pierce, but again, just going and catering to what you're saying about Terry, we have to get into the business about trading back if he's going to be here sometime, because looking at the assets, we don't have a lot, because if Terry is not here, another GM could possibly come in and look at, be like, I have nothing to work with. Now you're talking about trading off assets, not saying that he will, but like Bijan Robinson, like Drake London, because Jesse Bates, et cetera, because we got to create some cap space. We got to create some draft capital. I'm thinking that would be the thought process of a new GM if they would come in, correct?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Now, I don't think trading Bijan is going to be that much of an option, just because who else you got?
Yeah, right. Of course.
But yeah, I do think it's with Terry, it's a 0% chance they trade Bijan. With another GM, it goes up to like 2%, right? At that point in time, and that becomes a possibility. And then depending on what happens next year, like I don't think trading Bijan would be an option next year, but certainly other players would be on the table next year. And then if they're looking at a situation similar to what the Jets are looking at this past year, going into 2027, where it's like, oh yeah, this team is, we're 2-3 years away, so we need to accumulate the assets. Then I think trading Bijan becomes a possibility. So I do think, yeah, another GM would certainly come in here and not feel as precious towards the current players, and that could lead to some players getting traded that maybe some of us would not be particularly thrilled about.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. But we know you're busy, man. We know you got a busy schedule, man. We definitely appreciate you stopping through and giving us a little bit of insight on that video. And y'all can go check that video out on Locked On Falcons as he revisits the quarterback position. It was a damn good show, so I had to give my thoughts on it, me and Chris, because it's something we're going to talk about the rest of the offseason. Let's keep it real. And will it be a veteran? Will it be a rookie coming in? I mean, look, depending on what they do and what the shakeup may be, it's still that kind of question. But Aaron, again, thank you for coming through, man. Please tell everybody where to find you before you get out of here.
Always, Smitty, appreciate you reaching out and inviting me on the show. Chris, always appreciate talking with you. And of course, if people want to find more of my stuff, they can find it on Locked On Falcons on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
Great. And get well, man, because this is a season of flu and COVID still around. So, man, we pray you get well, man, and keep putting out great content. Tell JD and Miss Batiste to keep doing the same as well. Salute. Miss Martin on Channel 5, man, because she's doing her thing as well. Fact. But thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate it, my brother.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas, man.
Same to you, my man. No doubt. But hey, man, look, that was a great episode, man. Y'all, please go check that out. Miss B, what's good? Miss B, what's good, man? You done missed out on the whole season. What's going on, Miss B?
I'm trying to tell you.
No, but we want ignoring your questions, man. We were just trying to get that segment out the way. But we can get into super chats now. We answered the first.
And by the way, Raheem still needs to go.
Agreed. Shout out to Mr. International, man. I appreciate you, my brother, as always. So we're just gonna run down these super chats and we're gonna keep it going. If the Falcons had playoffs, the common denominator is still the fact that coaching needed to be better. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons need evaluating talent for the next year. I'd rather see Emory Jones at quarterback than Kirk Cousins right now. I can't agree with that one. Emory is not polished enough.
I'm about to say Emory and Easton Stick would be the same guy right now out there.
Pretty much. Be honest. Yeah. Penix got bench versus Carolina. Kirk played. The offense did nothing. Common denominator is the office of the coordinator. And also you got to think Kirk was rusty as well because he set out, most of the season at that point. I think it was 8 games before. And I couldn't be mad at that because you got to shake off the rust. And now that he's shaked off the rust, he's got his confidence back. Now he looks totally different. Boom. What's good, my guy? Y'all go check out Boom DANTL Sports on YouTube. It says crazy that we're going into others off season with the same issue and it sucks as a fan. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Don't think the quarterback matters when 75% of your offense passes are behind the line of scrimmage. Definitely got to push the ball down the field a little bit more. Okay, you can read it.
Okay, the only difference I've seen between Penix and Cousins was Cousins being allowed to throw across the middle. And again, that goes back to what they were saying about Kurt being more comfortable under center. But it is still your job to get Michael Penix comfortable under center. Now, if you're trying to tell me that Michael Penix said, hey, look, I don't want to do that, then I ain't going to lie to you. It's still your job as a coach to say, look, this is what the game plan is. This is what you need to do to not only be a better quarterback, but to run this offense at the full capacity that you need to run it and have it as a full locomotive. And if he wasn't willing to do that, then that means we need to move on from this guy, because we don't need no guy that's going to come in and say what he does want to do and what doesn't want to do or have limitations. I don't want to necessarily have limitations at quarterback. I mean, we've already got limitations at quarterback.
Yeah,
so
basically.
there's no point of continuing that. So again, if he's not comfortable, get him comfortable. That's what you get paid to do. Millions of, not thousands, you get paid millions of dollars to prep a guy to go out there and execute at the highest level.
Right. Keep going.
Like, what are we doing? He said there's no quarterback that could have played for this team this year that could have changed this season's outcome. Now there's a possibility of that, because I know we talked about you could throw Pat Mahomes into this offense and he'd still be cussing out Zach Robinson. My thing is, the amount of times you've seen Zach Robinson, like us Falcon fans, we ain't talking about nobody else. Us Falcon fans seeing Zach Robinson being cursed out on the sideline, whether it's from a rookie, second-year quarterback, or if it's, you know what I'm saying, blatantly by Kirk Cousins. Regardless, that is an issue to where your guy is constantly having to get cursed out on the sideline because he's not dialing up the right plays, or he's not he's not stacking plays as well, things that worked before he goes away from it instead of coming back to it. Same thing like you were saying about that 13 personnel, that 21 personnel. We don't necessarily see those things. Like, why are those things incorporated as the functioning unit or as something that is a standard within the offense? It seems like it changes every week. It's a flip of a coin, and that is a problem.
Agreed. He said we don't need guys. We don't need guys. We just need our guys to play better. Simple. Guys, we need to play better. There's no one person that's going to save this team. But the thing about it, how you going to play better, execute better if they're not calling the right plays? And could the problem be coaches not developing talent? And that's absolutely the problem. Absolutely. And that's what we've been saying all year season. Do you believe that Atlanta Falcons are playing at the best players at the best position at each position? That's hard to say, because as we said on the post game, the reason Dorless didn't play last year was because of Grady Jarrett. Mm-hmm. And you might be talking about the same thing with Onyemata. You might be talking about the same thing with Jesse Bates. Who knows? We can definitely see it with Mike Hughes. And if they were developing Kobe like they were supposed to, he would have took that spot 3-4 weeks ago.
And then remember we had other guys too. Remember Morgan Fox? We didn't even make the season roster, but we paid him, but he didn't even make it. And why? Because other guys pushed him out.
Right.
You know, these younger guys pushed him out. Grady, I mean, we still love Grady Jarrett. Always gonna love Grady Jarrett. But if you look at what he's doing in Chicago, I'm not gonna lie to you. Definitely would rather take Brandon Dorless and what he's doing this year than Grady Jarrett and what Chicago was getting from him, especially for the price tag guaranteed.
And with one more sack, he would top Grady Jarrett's career high.
And
just his second season.
In just his second season. That's wild.
Miss Francis said, where's Natch? Isn't he a quarterback? Absolutely, he's a former quarterback. But he got drafted to be a receiver because of the season he had in college football last year. Mm-hmm. So he probably won't play quarterback again, especially not in the NFL, because he will have to develop at another position, and that's not going to happen. But great pop-up show, man. Glad we can come in and talk to Aaron Freeman. Glad we can get y'all up to date on, that situation, because we were actually going to talk about it. And we have another series coming up. We're working on the behind the scenes about stay or go, keep them or cut them. What you gonna do? And we got names that we're gonna throw out there. 2 names per show. Y'all come in and tell us what y'all think. But Chris, you know what to do, man.
Yes,
yeah,
man. A1 Favorite Sports, that's the platform on YouTube. Please come over, like, subscribe, comment, and subscribe. Be a part of the A1 family. And make sure y'all find y'all piece today. And I'm about to find mine right now. Because just even we're here, just like when we be wrong about things in the hindsight, y'all flip. I just need proof, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. please provide me proof on when I flipped on anything about being hindsight. Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this was just, a hindsight conversation again, because dating it back, Aaron Freeman on Locked On Falcons talked about it, and then we just kind of piggybacked up and wanted to bring him on talking about it. At the end of the day, something about the hindsight and everything like that. We know, how I feel personally. Kirk Cousins should have been benched way before then. And, going into, with the Michael Penix thing, I feel like it was the smart decision, the right decision. Because once you put Michael Penix in, you can't go back, to Kirk Cousins again. Like he even said, you can't put the genie in the bottle. So, I don't know what you mean about the hindsight with that. I'm guessing that's what you're meaning because we're even talking about it. But again,
right.
Kirk Cousins is not the guy for me. Michael Penix, I do still believe in Michael Penix, but I can't overlook the injuries and where he may be. Ultimately, I feel like we're going to end up getting a bridge quarterback somewhere in it. But regardless, though, guys, we got to get the best out of our guys. But I do feel like personally, the coaching staff that we have will not get the best out of these guys. I don't feel like we have guys that can develop Michael Penix, because when I looked up and down that roster, I see nobody who has developed a rookie and put him into the best situations. I see a bunch of guys who've worked with veterans, and more veterans. Guys that's already been established, the Matthew Staffords, the Jared Goffs, who still even developing up there with the Lions into a even better quarterback. So at the end of the day, fam, I'm just looking at it like we got to figure out our situation, but we don't have the guys. We just do not. You look at every coach that is on the offensive side, and you look at their resume. They have not one guy that they have developed themselves. It's always been veterans, from Kurt to Matt Stafford to Jared Goff, to Kurt being back in, in Washington. You even go to think about the tail end of RG3, which really he was a shell of himself after that ACL. So again, and even with him, he didn't necessarily elevate, but none of those guys was at the helm. At the end of the day, they have not developed anybody. And that's why I've said that weeks ago, and we've seen it now. And now Michael Penix is hurt, fam. So it's just, at the end of the day, this is all just turmoil, and it's no Falcon fan fault. We got to get better in the decision making. And I've said it again, it starts at the top. The guy who owns the team, our beloved owner, great humanitarian, but we got to figure out a better situation for moving forward from the head of the helm all the way down. That's how I personally feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Great outline. Great way to break it down. Great way to break it down. But yeah, man, y'all know where to catch me. Man. Smitty Sports Machine on YouTube. Also catch me at Twitter at FatboySlam_21. And again, we had to have this conversation because it had to happen, and it's gonna happen the rest of the offseason. We just getting y'all prepared for it. But I hate to end it so quick, man. Had something come up.
Yeah, because we really can keep going, man. This really is a conversation we really can keep going about, man. Look forward, just like Smitty was saying, though, because we do have a few things coming out for you guys. We're gonna have that keep 'em or cut 'em thing. And again, let me go ahead and give a disclaimer now. We want to keep all Falcons here, but we understand the business and we cannot keep all Falcons. So if you have one guy kind of like campaigning for one guy over the other, it's not necessarily saying that we like that particular person over the other. We're just saying, hey, if we keep him, we could do this, that, and the third and everything. So again, we're going to have a few guys coming out. We're going to have a few topics. We want you guys, every last one of you guys, to come and check that out, be a part of it, because you're going to be kind of like the judge in this, when we're talking about it. So just get ready for it. Again, we can't wait for it, honestly. Smitty, go ahead and take us out, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming through, man. Mr. International. Boom. I appreciate the donation, man, as always. Appreciate you, because that's how we keep the show going. And if I get up to enough donation, man, I'm gonna give away a free jersey. of your choice. And I'm gonna have a drawing for it. Chris gonna do it because he's good at those type things. But we're gonna find a way, man. But from boy Chris, this your boy Antoine Smith signing off. We're gonna holler at y'all soon, man. Peace.